talking trash to him. If you've seen the movie, you know what he says. I'm not going to repeat it. Hi guys, my name is Joe, and welcome to Fighting Words, the martial arts library. This is a segment that I call Media Fight Monday, where I take a fight scene from television, movies, animation, etc., and I break it down and give it a grade based on realism and storytelling value. This week we're doing a request for Frank Barr. He donated to my coffee account. Thank you, Frank. And he has requested the fight between Dalton and Jimmy from Roadhouse. So the movie Roadhouse came out in 1989. The character of Jimmy here is played by Marshall Teague, who actually had a background in Hapkido and Taekwondo. During his time in the U.S. military, he was actually a NATO kickboxing champion. We also have Patrick Swayze, who plays the part of Dalton. And Mr. Swayze had practiced martial arts like Taekwondo, Wushu, and Aikido from a young age. In addition, kickboxing champion Benny Urquidez was on hand to help train the fighters for this. This fight scene, according to IMDb, took place over 5 days. That's how long they took to film it. And initially, Teague and Swayze didn't quite get along that well until they noticed that they were each sort of committed to having an authentic fight scene. Now, as the setup to this scene, this is toward the end of the movie. Jimmy has been a thorn in Dalton's side, but I don't think they've ever come to blows before this. At this point, he is burned down the place where Dalton was staying, and he's injured the old man he was staying with. I got the sound off, but right now he's laughing maniacally. He's driving off on his dirt bike. Okay. So this fire back here is presumably around where Dalton is starting from. And I'm only showing this because it tickles me. So he was able to outrun a dirt bike that had a head start on him. Alright. We see here that Jimmy has assumed a right lead stance. Dalton has assumed a left lead. This would put them in what's called an unmatched stance, or sometimes an open stance position, which generally means that their rear weapons, their rear straight, rear round kick, for example, would have greater access to sort of the vulnerable fleshy bits of the body, and also a straighter shot at aiming for the chin. And Teague switches his stance before throwing a front kick. Now they're exchanging straight punches and kicks right here, some of which are blocked or parried. Comes over the top of the hook, kick to the body that's partially blocked. Jumping front kick, spinning back fist that hits nothing. So why would you throw a jumping front kick? Part of it is to cover distance, part of it is to sort of fake throwing that first leg, getting the guy to focus on that while your second leg comes up. Sometimes it's been used to strike a larger target. I'm a big fan of watching Iron Mike Zambidis, some of his fights in K1. And he was a shorter guy for his weight class, so he would use like jumping knees to attack the head. Front kick is blocked, round kick is blocked, spin kick is ducked. And one thing I do like is that Dalton, or Swayze, tends to have his rear hand closer to his jaw. His lead hand is low. If you're playing this sort of game, that might not necessarily be a bad thing. You know, he does tend to keep the shoulder up in a pretty good covered position. A low hand position can allow you to sort of come up with strikes from unexpected positions. I like to use it to sort of jam people who are coming in, because my arm was almost straight to begin with, and it's below their eye line. So somebody's moving in toward me, I just sort of extend my arm just a little bit, sort of stop their progress, and then follow up with another strike. So get another front kick. Okay, Swayze got him in the gut as he was punching. All right, looks like he was starting to work for a collar choke. He got hit in the gut with an elbow. He went for his own, maybe a chop to the face. Jimmy flipped him over. Dalton flips Jimmy over. I actually like that. So that worked by pulling down on his arm and kicking up with his leg. That caused him to flip over. So Dalton's coming in with his own flying, maybe a knee. Punches on the ground, gets blocked. Sort of scissors him over. If his arm wasn't deep enough, that could have been turned into an armbar, which might have had a dramatic effect on the fight, if he'd been able to dislocate the elbow. I have to say, something that surprises me here is that they're fighting on the beach, and at no stage in here does somebody just grab a handful of sand, which is right there, and toss it in the other guy's face. It might be considered a little bit dirty, but the stakes are pretty high for this fight. Outside crescent kick is ducked. Hook punch is ducked. Hook punch to the body. Elbow to the back of the neck. He blocks a knee to the face. Then he doesn't block the second one, and I don't know why. That was nice. Thrust kick from the ground. That is sort of a staple of like 1970s, 1980s karate. And again, you can see the clouds of dust being kicked up, but nobody has thought to just grab it and toss it in each other's eyes. I don't know why. Crescent kick lands. Punch is deflected into a wrist lock. Gets sort of a kotegaeshi throw. Kicks him in the face. Is that a round kick or a crescent kick? Anyway, ducked. Kidney punch. Back fist is blocked. Responds with a side kick. Another side kick. Those are good. Blocks a punch. Lands a punch. Tackle. And he gets tossed over the top. Oof. Okay. According to IMDb, Marshall Teague thought that was a breakaway log. It did break away, but it was just a regular log. So, apparently after this fight, in addition to just having bruises everywhere on him, Swayze also had a couple of broken ribs and a knee that had to be drained because it had so much fluid built up in it. Swayze actually was pretty athletic growing up. According to Wikipedia, he had a scholarship to play football in college. It doesn't name the college. But a knee injury ended his football career. I would assume it's the same knee. He also had his knee drained while doing Dirty Dancing, actually. That was some clubbing blow to the back. Punch to the ribs on the ground. Gets sort of a half Nelson. He's talking trash to him. If you've seen the movie, you know what he says. I'm not going to repeat it. He just tosses him away, which is tactically not very smart because you had him. If your intention is to end the fight, you got his head under control. You can just ram it into an object like the trees that are around, or you could begin to put on a chokehold of your own, or you could just like rabbit punch him until he stops breathing. So it seems silly to give up that sort of control, but he's going to follow it up with kicks on the ground. Oh, the same spot where he got hit with the log. Swings and miss, body punch, knee to the face. Jimmy gives a war cry before kicking a tree, getting his leg caught on a tree, getting kicked in the crotch. It's another knee to the face. big punch. That might have been an elbow, but I think it was a punch. Body shot, punch, punch. Round kick to the thigh. Front kick to the face. Side kick. And I gotta say, between the choreography itself and the camera angles, we're not really seeing a whole lot of daylight with these strikes. You know, in some of my reviews of some of Bruce Lee's more legendary fights, one thing I complain about is that, you know, we can see a lot of daylight between the strikes, you know, showing that they're not actually landing or not coming close to landing. In professional wrestling terms, it looks like these guys are working snug. You know, they're coming very close from the looks of it. Just another spinning crescent kick. The guy pulls out a gun. And I don't know why he did. Like, he sees him. We are shown. Guy's reaching for his gun. And Dalton's sitting there like, yep, he sure is reaching for his gun. And he doesn't try to preempt him or keep him from drawing it. In a tactical sense, this would be a bad idea. I'm not saying that it wouldn't necessarily happen. But I think if you already know that a fight is going on, that would be something that, you know, somebody's reaching somewhere on their person in the middle of a fight. Someone with Dalton's background knows they're going to be pulling something. Okay, I got the audio on mute, but again, there are small things about this that tickle me. He says, I'm going to kill you the old-fashioned way. Isn't that what you were doing with your fists? Isn't, you know, eliminating someone barehanded the old-fashioned way? Like, revolvers weren't invented until, what, the mid-1800s? This is actually pretty technologically up-to-date, dude. So he kicks the gun out of his hand, wraps up his arm. Ah! And that's the end of the fight. He rips his throat out. Oh, wait a minute. One more move. His girlfriend, Doc, looks horrified. It's another crescent kick to send him into the water, which was completely unnecessary. Like, it's really hard to breathe if you're missing your esophagus. So let's start by grading this on realism. One of the things I like about Roadhouse is that it looks like a brawl done by people who are trained in kicking martial arts. So you do get elements of things, you know, you got your jump kicks in here, you got wrist locks, you know, things that you wouldn't see from most brawlers. So I definitely like the tone of the fights in here a lot. I would say we are probably seeing more crescent kicks than we would typically see from most fighters, but overall, the action was pretty realistic. You know, the coup de grace, you know, like ripping out a guy's throat, that you can't. But outside of that, everything else, you know, some of the strikes are being blocked. That's realistic. They are using the environment, which is realistic. Like I said, I don't know why they didn't start tossing sand. Why nobody tossed sand in somebody else's eyes. I mean, so the fight could happen, I guess. But it was right there. And I don't know why Dalton didn't try to preempt Jimmy from drawing his pistol, which he absolutely had the opportunity to. He absolutely should have done that. But really, again, except for the coup de grace, except for not keeping the guy from drawing his gun, this was a pretty realistic fight. Given that, you know, the end of the fight was a big moment in the fight, I'm going to have to count pretty heavily towards taking that off of the grade, but I'm still going to give it like an A-. You know, like, again, it was a brawl done with, like, jump kicks. As far as storytelling goes, even without the dialogue, I think the action did tell a pretty good story. Both of these guys are very capable fighters. I thought an interesting touch was that when it came to, fighting on the ground, we got glimpses of it. You know, Dalton kneeled down and would punch. Jimmy stood over him and kicked him in the ribs. And if we are considering, good guy versus bad guy, then a good guy will get down on your level in order to continue the fight, and a bad guy will stand over you and kick you while you're down. That I don't know how much of that played into that, but I do think it was a nice character touch. There wasn't a whole lot that could really be discerned from their styles. We did see some grips and throws sometimes. It did sort of slowly escalate from simple punches and kicks to like, okay, now I'm going to tackle you. Now I'm going to try to, break your leg across the tree or whatever. So it wasn't a dramatic escalation. We did get one guy clearly intending to kill the other. And this guy is clearly psychotic. Like I said, you guys can look up what he said to him when he had him in that half Nelson if you want. Pretty sure most of you know what it is. That is a statement of intent, I would say. This is a pretty vile dude. I have to win, and I have to win decisively. So maybe knocking him out alone isn't going to be an option. If you're talking about legally, I'm a little unsure as to how that would play out. But as far as how the story plays out, I think needing to end the threat in the way that he did works well for the story. I'll give it a solid B. I'm a little bit tempted to give it a bit of a higher grade, but I think ultimately we got a couple of good moments in there, but I don't think that the fight really built from a 1 to a 10. Thank you for following along with me. That's all I have for this week. If you guys have any requests, you can do what Mr. Barr did, and you can look into my Ko-fi account and make a donation there. I'm going to put a link to that in the description. Again, Frank Barr, thank you for donating, for helping out the channel. I hope you enjoyed this review, and I'll see you guys later. Thank you.